It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP As We See It, a weekly syndicated show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football, always keeping an eye on the national college football scene and other sports. We'd like to get you to pay attention to our social media platforms on Facebook, on Instagram, X account, AP As We See It, and at AP Stedham. And of course, our YouTube channel, which has all our broadcasts at AP As We See It on the YouTube channel, and the Spotify. We archive every episode as well, the audio primarily, but that YouTube channel, we have the video as well. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Greer's Markets, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. Remember, they have the coloring contest for the children. They have the 109-year celebration, so you can win some prizes. So check that out at the store. We have the groceries to go. If you can't make it down to one of the locations, they'll deliver to your office, your home, any venue when you're watching those games, those SEC games for college football coming up. And also, we want to direct you to Lucy's Recipes. She has the cookbook out, the fabulous recipes, and you can purchase that book at the store and then online as well. They have all the produce and the delicious fruits and vegetables and the desserts. You can check the weekly online specials, and remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. We also like to thank the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta, spacious rooms. They have the indoor pool, great scenery there. They have the delicious breakfast. They cook to order on the weekends, plus during the week, the buffets and the different restaurants there, the gift shop. And Ben Jacquemour and his staff do a tremendous job with their hospitality, and they really know how to treat people just right. I stayed there for the SEC Media Days. I always stay when I'm in the ATL Atlanta at the Cortland Grand Hotel. So check out Cortland Grand Hotel downtown. But now we'd like to, this is going to be a show about Tigers in Death Valley. Tigers in Death Valley. You thought it was about college football. Yes, college football, but Tigers in Death Valley. We'd like to welcome to the show a good friend of our show, Trevor Groves, the owner and publisher of CUTigers.com. Hey, Trevor, you going to go for a swim? It's pretty hot over there in Clemson now.
Actually, it's finally cooled down here, AP. The last 5 or 6 days, we had lots of rain. It's been Dabo even talked about that just now in our post-practice interview. He said these guys are getting a little spoiled out here because it's only 75 degrees. A couple of weeks ago, it was like 96, 97, breaking records. Dabo wanted it to be that way right now, but he said
yes,
the players are getting some slack here these few days of this cool weather. I think you referred to it as Club Med. But he's hoping it'll heat back up and get their conditioning to where it needs to be. But yeah, we're getting ready for the big showdown, the big opener against LSU, as you said, the real Death Valley, the original Death Valley, which is here in Clemson, South Carolina. All you have to do is Google it and find out that the Presbyterian College head coach Lonnie McMillan dubbed Clemson's stadium Death Valley because he used to have to play them every year here, and his teams got absolutely annihilated. And so the name stuck. And that was in 1948. And about 40 years, well, maybe 30, 35, 40 years later, some reporter thought they'd be cute, and it's called LSU Stadium DEAF Valley because it was so loud, as a play on Clemson's famous moniker. And the name just morphed into Death Valley. So now you've got a copycat Death Valley. But I digress. Right. Regardless of who wins the game, everybody knows who the original. Anybody like you, AP, who knows their college football history and has been around a while, knows where the original Death Valley is, whether Clemson wins this game or not.
Right. Yeah. Didn't Frank Howard or something? Did they bring a rock there from Death Valley or something like that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So a Clemson alumnus brought a rock back from Death Valley, California, which is now famously Howard's Rock. He gifted it to Frank Howard, the legendary Clemson head coach,
Right.
who proceeded to stick it in the corner of his office and use it as a doorstop. He basically told an assistant to get rid of the darn thing because this is wasting space. Throw it away. The assistant thought better idea might be to mount it on a pedestal at the top of that hill and have the players rub it for good luck before they run down the hill. And that's exactly what they did, and the rest is history.
Oh, yeah, the Barlow Bend, Alabama native, I think, University of Alabama graduate in 1930, Frank Howard. He's legendary. He used to call Coach Bryant, he called him Baya. Baya, he'd say, well, Baya said this and
Yes,
Baya
sir.
said that.
One of the many legendary Clemson head coaches who had Alabama ties. Lots of
Yeah,
Clemson Alabama ties. I
continues.
think it was
Yeah, they
I
did.
think it was S.C. Jones actually, the
No
Clemson
kidding.
alumnus who dedicated Howard's Rock.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. Yeah, they've had several Alabama coaches, Danny Ford and Dabo, and way
Yeah,
back,
Charlie Pell,
Charlie Pell, Cecil Ingram, Hootie Ingram, right? I think he was the
Hootie
head
Ingram,
coach.
who actually gave Clemson the paw.
Oh, did he?
He's responsible for the Tiger Paw logo. Hootie Ingram
Okay.
is also an Alabama guy.
I love all the history, Trevor, as you know I do. But anyway, Trevor, I think Cade Klubnik, getting right down to it. Let me backtrack. How's old Dabo doing? How's my friend Dabo?
He's great, in great spirits. Loves what he's seen from the players these first few days of camp. They've only been in pads now for 2 practices,
Yeah.
but he actually we just had about a 45 minute post practice interview with him, and he got a little bit
Yes.
heated when somebody asked him about the recent Sports Illustrated article that I don't know if you saw at AP that reported that Dabo predicted a perfect 16-0 season, which I immediately and funnily enough, my dad actually texted me a link to that yesterday or the day before. I immediately texted my dad back and said, "Pop, don't believe everything you read online. That's fake news. Dabo would never, ever
That's what I
make
thought. Yeah.
such a prediction. Never. It
Yeah,
was
I saw
totally
that.
taken out of context. Dabo called it clickbait. He
Right.
just said it was absolutely ridiculous and totally out of context, which it was. What he really said was that Clemson was the first 15-0 team ever, which it was in 2018,
Yes.
and that the race is now on to have the first ever 16-0 team. That's all
Yes.
he said.
Yeah.
Didn't say that
Right.
he was predicting that his
No.
team would do it. Just said the race was on. That's it. That's Dabo. He said stuff like that.
Yeah.
And of
Right.
course, somebody thought they get a lot of clicks by saying that he's predicting a 16-0. He wouldn't even predict AP. He wouldn't even predict that he was going to win the ACC, even though he's won it 8 out of the last 10 years. He would never even
Right.
predict that, no matter how good the
No.
team is. He would
Oh,
never
no.
ever say anything about making the playoffs, let alone winning a national title or going 16-0.
Oh,
Brian
yeah.
Kelly might make a prediction like that. I don't know, but Dabo certainly would not.
No. Hey, we got about 2.5 minutes, so I'll give you the 2.5 minutes on Cade Klubnik. I thought he just played much better. The stats were slightly different, but just his way he conducted himself as a quarterback was a difference maker for Clemson.
Oh, huge second season as a starter, AP. And as you know, more often than not, about 95% of the time, that's the case. You're not going to be Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence your first season as a starting quarterback at this level. It took him time to develop and mature as a quarterback. I expected he would. Dabo always expected he would. A lot of impatient Clemson fans who expected Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson right out of the gate wanted him gone after his first season as a starter 2 years ago. In fact, members of my own family told me. I had a big argument with my sister and my brother-in-law, who about a year and a half ago, after his first season as a starter, told me that he was terrible, that he would never amount to anything. I told them, watch, in 2 years he will be a Heisman candidate, and here we are, 2 years later, and he's not only a Heisman candidate, he's a Heisman front runner. Going into the season, because he had one of the best seasons last year of anybody, certainly, let alone returning quarterbacks. In fact, I think the only quarterbacks who did what he did as far as touchdowns to interceptions last year were Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, who both were just recently drafted. Cam Ward, number 1 overall. So yeah, there's justifiable reason for the Heisman hype surrounding Cade going into this season. I don't worry about him falling victim to that, as a lot of guys can. Because
yes, they can.
he's got his head on straight. He's got the right mentality and the right maturity to block out all that noise, just like he blocked out all the noise, all the negativity a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was really impressed with him. Like you said, 2 years ago, I just thought there was something missing from his overall performance, and I just didn't feel confident all the time when he was playing in the bigger games. And you saw last year the maturity, and
Right.
I think that the quarterbacks, it's can you anticipate the throw? Can you make that third down pass down the field and get some explosive plays? Can you audible into the right play?
Right. Well, the game slowed down for him, AP. And I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about a guy who was the Elite 11 MVP coming out of high school.
Right.
He never lost a game in high school. Won 3 state championships at
Texas.
Westlake. Westlake, Texas. Home of Drew Brees and Nick Foles. I mean, this is a born winner. He's won his whole life, and he finally had some adversity his first year as a starter. Like I said, like most quarterbacks do. You look at Bo Nix. How long did it take Bo Nix to get his act together? You know him well from his years at Auburn.
Took a while.
And then he goes to Oregon. And it even took him, I think, 2 years at Oregon, right? His second year at Oregon. His last great season, which resulted in him being a top 10 draft pick. Same thing with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow couldn't even get the starting spot at Ohio State. Had to transfer to LSU. And it took him 2 years at LSU. His first year was pretty average at LSU. His second year, one of the greatest seasons in college football history. So it takes time. But here's the other thing, AP, real quick, is that Cade, he's got the receivers now. I think Clemson has the best receiver core in the country.
Let's come back to Trevor. Trevor, let's come back to that. We're going to take a few messages. AP as we see it. We'll be right back after these messages with Trevor Groves, CUTigers.com. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with our very special guest, AP as we see it, Trevor Groves, CU Tigers, the owner and publisher.com, does an outstanding job covering the Clemson Tigers for many years. If I want to know anything about the Clemson Tigers, I know who to call, Trevor Groves for sure. But Trevor, we were discussing those wide receivers, and we know that every quarterback needs support. They can throw it, they can't catch it.
Yeah, that's right, AP. And that's, for the last 3 years when Clemson had that 3-year playoff drought after 6 straight playoff appearances, all-time record, most of the national narrative was that it was because of the wide receivers, which I agree to an extent. They didn't have the same explosive guys and one-on-one type downfield guys like they had during those playoff years, like with T. Higgins and Mike Williams, et cetera. However, injuries was a huge part of that as well. I mean, they had an unprecedented 3-year run of injuries at the wide receiver position, specifically. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Like they had Will Sweeney was their starting wide receiver in a bowl game one year because they're
the coach's son,
Sweeney, the holder. Yeah, exactly. So that just gives you an idea. He was starting at wide receiver. That's how banged up they've been for 3 years. But now finally, they've got all the talent and they're all healthy. Knock on wood. They've got 6 legitimate starters at wide receiver. Any of them are like interchangeable too. But you start, of course, with Antonio Williams, and then you go with the 2 returning the freshmen from last season, T.J. Green and Bryant Wesco, who both had incredible freshman year last year. And then you've got Tristan Smith, who came in from he's one of the rare transfer portal additions that Dabo's had.
Oh my goodness!
Plucked him from Southeast Missouri, and he had an incredible spring game. He had the best spring game last April of any of the receivers. So he's a 6'5" guy, and he's got that length that they've kind of been.
Oh, love that.
He's got that length that Mike Williams and T. Higgins had. So he'll be like your fade route guy. Your downfield, like jump ball guy to stretch the field. And then you've got a couple guys like Cole Turner and Tyler Brown. Tyler Brown 2 years ago was a freshman All-American receiver when Antonio Williams. Antonio Williams was a freshman All-American. Then his sophomore season, he missed the entire season with injury. Like I said, because they've had unprecedented injuries. So Antonio Williams missed the whole year. So Tyler Brown, as a true freshman, had to step up, and he had a freshman All-American. So they had back-to-back freshman All-American wide receivers in Antonio Williams and Tyler Brown. Last season, Tyler Brown was spent most of the year injured, but he's back healthy finally. So they've got, you had him. He's like a slot, he's a fast slot guy like Antonio Williams. And then you got Cole Turner, who is also banged up. When he was a true freshman, he made a big splash in the ACC championship game against North Carolina with 100 yards receiving right out of the gate as a true freshman. And this is a guy who was a basketball player and was still learning the wide receiver position. So he was out most of last season. He's back. So they've got those 6 guys that are just that are all explosive. They all have speed and hands, and they could do it all. And would be starting for most programs. And Dabo's just going to rotate that. In fact, Dabo just now during his interviews called it the second wave of terror. Because when you take Antonio Williams out, enter Tyler Brown, the other freshman All-American from 2 years ago, and he comes in try to handle him at the slot with fresh legs. So and then you add to the wide receiver core, which I think is the best in the nation, as I said. You've got Ian Shefflin, who Dabo converted from the basketball team. He's now a tight end. And
oh my,
you're talking about,
love that.
You're talking about a 6'8"
oh
guy
my goodness.
who was the best rebounder in the ACC last season, first team All ACC, and now he's playing tight end, which isn't completely new to him. He did play football in high school at nearby Grayson High School in Georgia, same high school as Phil Maffa. But he's, obviously there's going to be a learning curve because playing here is different than playing high school football. But I'm excited to see what he can do because he's got the size. I think a lot of the skills translate from basketball to football.
They certainly do.
High point the ball when you're rebounding, except he's not rebounding against 7-foot basketball players. He's trying to high point a football against 6-foot DBs. Or 5'9", 5'10" DBs, being 6'8".
What a weapon!
So, yeah, I'm excited about him. But they've got, he's not the only tight end. They've got a couple other tight ends returning, like Josh Sapp and Olsen Pat Henry, who are very, very good as well. So their passing game is going to be unbelievable. Really, the only question is running back. Who's it going to be with Phil Maffa, the workhorse gone? And that's another thing I'm really excited about this season. Adam Randall. Who was a wide receiver for the last 3 years, and they converted him to running back at the end of last season with Phil Maffa banged up. He actually played against Texas in the playoff at running back, but he played a little bit of running back and quarterback in high school, and so it's not completely brand new to him, but great hands as a wide receiver, and he's bulked up. He's playing at 235, 240 pounds right now, pure muscle.
Big.
So I'm really excited. In fact, Dabo said at our last week when we kicked off August camp, or our press conference, Dabo said that he thought Adam Randall would be one of the biggest stories in college football this season. That's a prediction he actually made. Like that's not
made that. Yeah, made that. Yeah, he must feel confident.
Yeah, so he's that confident in Randall. I can't. And just a little trivia, by the way. Adam Randall. That exciting ACC championship game where Clemson beat SMU on the 56-yard field goal.
Yes.
The reason they had that opportunity was Adam Randall was returning a kick. He was filling in for their normal kick returner who tore his ACL earlier in the quarter. Adam Randall comes in to return the kick, takes it back, I think, to the 40-yard line, and they complete a pass and then get in field goal range. So it was Adam Randall that actually set up that famous now game-winning historic kick by freshman Nolan Hooser to beat SMU and punch the ticket to the playoff for Clemson. I'm excited about Adam Randall, and then they've got the 5-star freshman running back Gideon Davidson, who's his ceiling is unlimited, but he is a true freshman. He was here in the spring, which is good, so he had a little bit of head start. But I think they'll be fine at running back between those two guys and the other couple guys that they've got, like Keith Adams, and they got a great offensive line back, 4 or 5 starters return, and they've got all those weapons that I've already talked about at receiver and tight end.
Hey, Trevor, I don't think we're going to let these other teams hear the report. I don't think they're going to show up for the game.
Yeah,
that offensive report you just gave, that's some powerful folks on that side of the ball. Explosive and talented.
I would not want to be LSU's defensive coordinator. I'll tell you that much right now.
Hey, Trevor, we're going to jump over to the defensive side in the last couple of minutes. We got about 2 minutes, Trevor, so we got to be brief on this one. But the defense, I know they got some defensive linemen, correct? Pretty good ones.
Oh, yeah. TJ Parker and Peter Woods. You got to start with those two. In fact, they're both projected to be first-round picks on everybody's draft board. Peter Woods was kind of playing out of position last season at defensive end because of the depth issues. And so now they picked up defensive end Will Helt from Purdue, who was considered widely the best defensive end prospect in the transfer portal last season. He had a great season last year for Purdue. They picked him up, so he's going to be starting at one end, and you've got TJ Parker starting at the other bookend, and you got Peter Woods back in the interior where he belongs. But then they've got so much depth there too. You've got guys like DeMonte Capehart, Peyton Page in the middle, Island Green, who had kind of a breakout season last year, and I'm expecting big things from him this season. And then you've also got some guys. You got some depth there at defensive end too. You've got a guy like Jaheim Lawson. In fact, I just asked Dabo about Jaheim Lawson, little brother of Shaq Lawson, you may remember, from 2015, 2016, the great, outstanding first-round draft pick defensive end. His little brother Jaheim was more of a project than Shaq, took a lot more development and growth, but now after 3 years, I mean, Dabo said he's got his body where it needs to be. He's playing at 260 pounds. He's got strong hands. He can now not only rush the passer, he's got long arms too. Not only rush the passer, but he can also set the edge. You know, in fact, I asked Dabo that specifically. Can he set the edge like old Shaq used to? And Dabo said, now he can. Absolutely, yes,
now
sir.
He can. So, wow, that's great.
Yeah, so that defensive line is going to be outstanding, but all 3 levels, AP. Linebacker, you got Wade Woodaz back and Sammy Brown, who was, a freshman All-American last year. They're 2 leading tacklers from last season, in fact, coming back at linebacker. You got Jeremiah Alexander, who transferred from Alabama with a lot of experience at linebacker. And then in the back end, you've got, guys like Avion Terrell at corner, who's a surefire first-round draft pick. Opposite him, you got Ashton Hampton, who's a 6'2" corner that everybody's looking for the length of corner. You've got safeties. They've got across the board. And then you got Tom Allen in the mix. I mean, watching him at practice today, that guy is as intense as they come. In fact, I remember,
Coach,
Ben Boulware was comparing him to Brent Venables because of his intensity, and I can see that. And in fact, Ben Boulware, you remember Ben Boulware, the linebacker, right?
Oh yes, I sure do.
Coach. He's now their linebackers coach. So they've got that, his intensity, and he was the most intense player I ever saw at practice. I mean, I watched him in August at August camp, and he'd have the intensity of game day, literally, at every practice. And so now he's bringing that as the linebackers coach, and he's getting that out of his players. I'm expecting this defense to be what it was, not what it was last year, which was an aberration. I think they're going to be back to what we got used to seeing under Venables.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Trevor, we got to get going here, but thank you so much, Trevor Groves, the CU Tigers owner and publisher.com. And it looks like it'll be a circus performance. A couple of Tigers going to show off in Death Valley and in South Carolina.
Yeah, well, rematch of the 2019 National Championship, and LSU got bragging rights from that one. The previous meeting was 2012, that exciting Peach Bowl. And Clemson made a game-winning. They converted on a 4th and 16 with Taj Boyd, and Catanzaro made a last-second field goal to beat LSU in the Peach Bowl. So the last 2 have been big games, and this one is going to be equally as big.
Hey, we'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it. Thank you, Trevor. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with our very special guest, the voice of the LSU Tigers, Chris Blair. Chris, we want to thank our sponsor before we get going. Greer's Marcus, 29 locations. Remember, Greer's got it in the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. Visit Ben Giacomo and staff for all their hospitality. Give them a shout. But Chris Blair, the voice of the LSU Tigers, always exciting. Down in, is this the Death Valley with the Tigers in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, I think so. I know we've had that discussion, AP, for several months leading up to the start of the season.
Yes.
And it's been described different ways. I like to call it. I luckily enough worked at both Clemson and now at LSU. And
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't mean it as a dig, but I
Right.
back in the spring referred to it as Big Death Valley and Little Death Valley, and apparently gotten a little bit of trouble. But that was just simply. That was simply to identify the two, but both are great venues. Both have great atmospheres, and I'm excited about the fact that LSU and Clemson are going to open the seasons and play each other over the next two seasons. So we go to Frank Howard Memorial or Frank Howard Field at Memorial Stadium, known as Death Valley, there in Clemson this year, and then they'll be coming back to Death Valley, known as Tiger Stadium, to many. Next year. So it's one of those deals where I've been on the train for a number of years, believing that whether there's 4 teams in the playoff, 12 teams in the playoff, 16, it doesn't matter to me how many they want to put in there. I just think from a college football standpoint, fan standpoint, the cost to go to a game, I like these kind of matchups. And I know that Coach Kelly and probably Coach Sweeney would tell you, from their perspective, they would prefer maybe a warm-up game. LSU really hasn't had one since the 2019 season. In fact, that's the last time they won their season opener, oddly enough. But for me, as somebody who is a consumer of college football and loves college football, I really like these matchups. And, whether the SEC ever decides to go to a 9-conference game schedule or not, I just think it's better for your program to go best against best. So while there's some who want these warm-up games, I'm excited to open up the season with this type of top 10 matchup between two very good programs, two very good coaches, and what I know this year is going to be two very good teams.
Yeah, I like it more than ever because of let's potentially say 4 teams out of the SEC. You can lose the game. I don't recommend it because you want to have your seating improved when they make the selection. And the fans get all excited. The players are in top condition because they do not want to be embarrassed. They want to have a good showing that first game. So I think there's many, many positives to playing this matchup, ACC, SEC, the first game.
Absolutely. And, again, that's no slight to some of the non-conference games that traditionally SEC schools and Big Ten schools and ACC schools play. And I like the fact that LSU, when they do that, for the most part, we share that money, that revenue for a team to come to Tiger Stadium, a substantial amount of revenue for some of the FCS schools here in the state of Louisiana. And to me, if you're going to set up those games, you should share the wealth within your state. So I'm not opposed to that. I just think that because of the playoff and because of the expectations that a program like LSU and like Auburn and Alabama and really everybody in the SEC, I think you have a smaller margin for error when you're not playing these type of marquee matchups. So again, I'm in favor of it, and I've been in favor of it for a number of years. So I think that's probably where we're headed. And I know some people probably don't like that, and I can understand why. But I think with television spending the money they're spending, and obviously with the playoff expanding, they're going to want more money. Conferences want more money. I think the TV partners, whether it be the traditional media or even the streaming partners, to be honest with you, I think they're going to require that these are the type of matchups they are going to pay for.
I think so too. I love the fact that they play the games against Grambling and University of Louisiana. I really applaud them and embrace that. The LSU Tigers, they play most of the teams in the state, and that's great for everybody involved. And I wish some other schools would follow suit. I wish they would follow suit. But
Well,
anyhow,
AP, I want to say this because again, I like those too. And this year we have Southeastern Louisiana on the schedule. I thought last year's game against Nichols, those guys came in and early on ran all over LSU, and it was exciting to see those young people who get a chance to play in a place like Tiger Stadium on that type of stage. I just think the way the business model and the financials are moving, I think we're going to see less and less of that.
I think
And
so.
again, if
Yeah.
that's the case, then I'm all for Clemson, LSU, and USC, and LSU and Florida State, and North Carolina versus Tennessee, whatever the matchup is. I just think that's where we're headed. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah. Chris, any differences, big differences between Clemson and LSU calling those games at those two venues, and anything that stands out to you? I mean, both have rabid fans. I mean, the state of South Carolina, unbelievable fans, win, lose, or draw. And LSU,
Yeah,
we know how they are. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in Kentucky where basketball is obviously king. And then moved in high school to South Carolina, and it was a real for me. Again, always loving college sports. It was a big transition because basketball was a distant second to football in the Palmetto State for both Clemson and Carolina. And
Right.
they have a great fan base, a rabid fan base. Death Valley is called Death Valley in Clemson for a reason. And just like Tiger Stadium here in Baton Rouge is called that. They don't lose often in their home venues, and certainly not under Dabo Swinney for most of his career since taking over when Tommy Bowden resigned. So yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities, and again, I think it's good for the sport. There's going to be a lot of great matchups on that opening weekend. I'm especially happy because the previous years we've played our opening game on Sunday night, which again, for the most part, everybody that loves college football is watching your school. But it was almost like on Saturday we were all sitting around going, it just doesn't feel like college football because we're not
Yeah.
we're not preparing for a game. So the fact that it's being played on Saturday to open the season, and another thing, no offense to ESPN, but the fact that these are being played on campus, I think, are more enjoyable as well.
I think
Because to
so.
me, that's what makes college football great is the pageantry on each campus. So the fact that we're playing at Clemson this year, which has a fantastic tailgating atmosphere, one of the best in the country. I've always thought of Clemson as a lot of trees and a lot of grass, and they still have that. And frankly,
Yes.
there's not a lot of places that still do. So it's a great place to go tailgate. And then in 10 years here at LSU, there's a great tailgates all over the country, Clemson included. But LSU, I don't say it's the best because I haven't taken in everywhere, taken in a lot. But there's no place like LSU. There's no place like
No,
Baton Rouge on game day. It's its own kind of thing. So
no.
the fact that they're playing these two games on campus, I think, is also what makes this exciting as well.
And you get to visit Mike the Tiger right in his domain, right there
He's
outside the
right outside
stadium.
my office. I can go out and see Mike. Well, when he's not sleeping, he sleeps quite a bit. But
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been at the last three openers, so I'm not going to be there. So hopefully things will be better. Hopefully things will be better. But
yeah, we're hoping
anyhow,
so.
Garrett Nussmeyer, I guess second in the Heisman with the odds so far. What can you tell us about him that you like, and just some general observations for his last year at LSU?
I think we refer to Garrett as kind of the college football unicorn. There's not many like him anymore
No.
who have signed the dotted line coming out of high school and have stuck with the program and waited for his turn and maximizing the most out of that. So I'm a big Garrett Nussmeyer fan because I think he's kind of a throwback to what developing a young athlete, regardless of sport, is about. And I think when you look at the way Garrett has progressed from his first year as a true freshman to last year really taking over the offense, the one thing that stands out about Garrett is he's never had a lack of confidence. And I want to verify there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, but Garrett's always
Yes.
been confident, and I put him firmly in that category. And he never had a fear. There wasn't a throw he didn't believe he couldn't make. And that was kind of the rap on Garrett when he got in at trash time in his early years. I mean, he would throw it in there, gunslinger style. And sometimes it came up roses, and sometimes there was a turnover, and
Right.
But Coach Kelly was very clear last year through spring ball and into fall camp that there's a difference now because Garrett understands he's not going in when you're up 25 or down 25. This is his team, and making those type of mistakes are detrimental. And in this league, if anybody has taken in the new Netflix series, which I did earlier today, at least episode 1, I mean, every coach that you talk to or that you see on there says there are no margin for error in the SEC. Every Saturday, you've got to be your best and make the right decisions. And when you're a quarterback, I know they get all the credit and sometimes all the blame, but you are
Yes.
making the decisions that drive your team. And I think what you've seen is Garrett still has that confidence that he can make the tough throw. It helps that he's got a great group of receivers around him once again this year. But I think his decision making and his experience is what has really taken him to the next level. And we're lucky here at LSU. We saw Joe Burrow be the starting quarterback in 18. He comes back in 19 and delivers what he delivered. We saw Jaden Daniels transfer in after having, I guess, a mediocre career at Arizona State. His first year in 21, or rather 22, was, good. And then the step he took in the offseason to his Heisman season the year later, that's why there's a lot of optimism, a lot of excitement for this season, because in the last 6 years total, LSU fans have seen a quarterback take a major step forward. And the fact that, Joe did that under Ed Ogeron, who was the head coach at the time. I think it bodes even better the fact that we saw Jaden Daniels do that same improvement year to year under a new coaching staff. So we know it can be done. It's not just inside a bottle for one time period. I think Garrett's ability, his natural ability, the fact that he grew up in a NFL quarterback family, his dad, of course, years in the pros, as well as now working with the Saints and quarterbacks. He's a longstanding NFL coach, coaching quarterbacks. I mean, I don't know how you come up with a better recipe to create a quarterback than what Garrett has had. And the fact that he took his time to learn and develop, and now it's his team, says a lot about the young man's character.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we're going to be right back after these messages with more from the voice of the LSU Tigers, Chris Blair. We'll be right back with APF as we see it after these messages. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with our very special guest, AP as we see it, Chris Blair, the voice of the LSU Tigers. We want to thank our sponsors, Greer's Markets, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. Check out Ben Giacomur and his staff with all that hospitality and tremendous location, and call the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. Hey, Chris, we had mentioned the quarterback for LSU, Garrett Nussmeier, one of the Heisman favorites at this point. But some of the general points you would like to make to the audience about the LSU, let's start with the offense, and then we'll break and discuss the defense after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, I think that was kind of the big question everybody had at the end of last year. Would Garrett come back? Did he have opportunities to go pro? And, we refer to Garrett around here as the college football unicorn because he's been at LSU his entire career. He's waited in the wings. He's grown up. He's developed. He talked about his close relationship with Jaden Daniels and watching Jaden prepare every minute of his day. Football and non-football. And, I'm proud of him. I mean, he never lacked confidence. We could tell that when he was a freshman. He had no fear to uncork that football and throw it in extremely tight windows. And, that was kind of the MO he picked up early on, which, again, I think gave some people some pause. AP last year was like, wait a minute, when he gets in there, he throws into double and triple coverage and then throws off his back foot. And he did, but he was in there when LSU was up by 25 or down by 25. And, Coach Kelly addressed that and said he was fully confident last year going into the year that Garrett understood this is a different role now. I'm not coming in at trash time. I'm coming in and leading this team. And I thought we saw him mature over the 13 games that he led the Tigers in last year. And we got an idea, much like Jaden Daniels, who people thought you had to handle with kid gloves. in this always tough SEC. Garrett, just like Jaden, has taken some lickings and keeps on ticking, as the ad used to say. So I think everything kind of centered around Garrett, and goodness knows he's got weapons at his disposal. I think he still has the confidence that if need be, he can make those tough throws. He can make every throw. The fact that his father played in the NFL, and his father's been a long time and successful quarterbacks coach in the NFL, currently with the Saints, I think is a big part of why he is a true extension of the coaching staff on the field, calling the signals for LSU's offense. And, we've got some pretty good evidence here at LSU of guys making a tremendous jump in their second year leading this offense. We saw Burrow in 18, that big Fiesta Bowl performance, and then 19, set history. We saw Jaden Daniels, who I think was probably an average Power 5 or Power 4 quarterback.
Yes, he was, right.
State. And I thought played very well in his first year in 22, and then he does what he does in 23. So the fact that two different coaching staffs have seen the development year to year like we've seen is why everybody's so optimistic and excited to see what Garrett can do this year. So he'll be a big key to the success. I mean, that's like most any quarterback and any team in the SEC. It's just good that LSU has this type of veteran quarterback because, frankly, when you look at the names that are being tossed about in the SEC, deservedly so for all these national accolades, I don't know that anybody's numbers right now are anywhere close to what Garrett's already done in one season. So I think that puts him in a very good spot.
Yeah, nice numbers. 4,000 yards, 64%, 29 TDs, 12 interceptions, 337 completions, 525 attempts. One player I wanted to ask you about, a transfer, a couple of them actually. Barry Brown, Kentucky. I think he caught 122 passes so far in his career in Lexington. And then also the transfer from Oklahoma, Nick Anderson, 10 TDs as a freshman. So two nice transfers at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, and a position group that was already pretty well stocked. This is a returning group of receivers who also, much like Garrett, kind of had their moments, but they were behind a pretty good group that we could all name pretty quickly if we looked at the NFL rosters. So there's another good group coming up. Aaron Anderson, I think, is probably underrated as a really top-notch receiver, good hands, and makes great moves in space. And Chris Hilton coming back, and I think you and I talked about it last year. The one thing that LSU's offense, is prolific as it was, didn't have a real deep threat. So that was because Chris was injured most of the year. So Chris is back. Nick Anderson from Oklahoma, that's kind of his bread and butter, is to stretch the field. So Garrett, again, who has a cannon for an arm, is going to have the ability to really challenge defenses, in the flats, across the middle, and when need be, even if he doesn't complete it, just the fact that they have to respect, a deep ball for a big home run play is going to be a nice addition to this offense. But I think Coach Kelly told me last week, I visited with him for a little bit, and he said, Chris, you realize we're going to have 3 receivers on this team that all 3 have either a kickoff or a punt return for a touchdown. He's excited about the speed LSU's going to have, especially on the outside.
Yeah, and the offensive line, Chris, and the running backs, they want to run when needed. I mean, that which suffice with all those receivers and the quarterback, I think. They don't need somebody spectacular back there.
Yeah, I mean, Brian talks about it all the time. He says, guys, we want to see 2nd and 2, 2nd and 1, the 2nd and 11 and 2nd and 12. I mean, any coach will tell you don't want to play behind the chains. And unfortunately for LSU, the running game, as well as the passing game, really had been, going back to Jaden Daniels last year, the running game was Jaden Daniels, which is fine. It worked good. But you don't want your quarterback to have to carry that type of load. Jaden's just one of those generational players. But it's really been, a lot of pressure has been put on the offense at the running back position to be able to run the ball when they want to run the ball. And what I mean by that is they want to be able to run the ball, to whether they want to slow the clock or take the air out of the game, but they want to be able to get positive yards so that when they're looking at 3rd down, it's not 3rd and 13, and Garrett's got to make some spectacular play, which he does often, but just to make it easier. And again, to make the defensive coordinator have to respect every facet of the team. And I think LSU, as good as they've been offensively, everybody in that building would tell you they've been one-dimensional. and at times against very good teams, as we've seen.
Yes.
Texas A&M, the game last year comes to mind. They just forced LSU. You're going to run the ball. We couldn't do it. Alabama, they're going to make you run the football. And if you can't do it, you want to sit back there and throw all day. What's the old saying? When you put a ball in the air in football, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are not good. Incomplete and interception.
Right.
So I think that's the key. I think the offensive line play, their continuity, because they're going to have some returning guys that saw plenty of monumental minutes last year. So that's good. And they brought in a couple of guys who have solid experience in Power 4 football at other places. So as they get more gelled in, and then again, I think the running back room, probably talent-wise, at least on paper, AP is probably as deep as we've seen it. Not just what people think they can do, what they've actually done. And Caden Durham, I think, is poised for another sensational sophomore season.
A little bit over 2 minutes, Chris. We want to talk about the defense. Some discuss there. That's that about Harold Perkins Jr. has ability. He didn't play as well, out of position, different things. Whit Weeks, the linebacker, 125 tackles. What about the defense and the new secondary as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's I mentioned the offense being offensive line and rushing, but the success of this team. And everybody will tell you, whether they live in Baton Rouge, whether they've ever been in the football building, or they live in Saskatchewan, they will tell you that defense has been LSU's problem. Brian Kelly will tell you that 23 team had trouble stopping nosebleeds at times, much less an SEC offense. Last year, I really believe, when you go back and watch the film and break it down and talking with guys that know a lot more about football than I do, there were steady improvements. The problem was you were so bad in 22. You needed just a major step forward. They didn't quite do that last year, but I think Coach Baker, the new DC in his second year, he's an aggressive style. We saw that in 22 when LSU traveled to Missouri. In 23.
Right.
Blake Baker is like, the best way to disrupt a high-powered SEC offense is to be on the offensive. Not to be reactive, but proactive. And I think they went out and recognized they needed the type of players who could play that type of defense. And to their credit, they identified the problem, which, as you know, in anything is step number 1. And number 2, they actively went out and tried to improve their roster in those departments. So we've got transfers with experience at Florida State, at Oklahoma, at Virginia Tech. Along with some key returners like Jacobian Guillory, who was injured early last year. He's back to anchor the front defensively. You mentioned Harold Perkins. I think they found his spot as a hybrid safety linebacker. And then you got the Weeks brothers at linebacker, who I think anybody who loves to watch guys have fun playing football, just watch the Weeks brothers. They love it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Just about 30 seconds or so. Chris, the first 5 games, Clemson on the road, Ole Miss on the road, Florida at home. Those are 3 tough ball games, but you're going to find out a lot in those first 5 games at LSU.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's as I said in the first segment. I mean, you open with Clemson, and then suddenly Southeastern comes to town, and then boom, before you know it, you're right in the thick of things with other teams in the SEC that have just as much a right vying for an SEC title as LSU does. So the margin of error each week that passes gets slimmer and slimmer as you head towards the back half of the year. So it's another tough schedule, but I think Kirby Smart said it best a couple of years ago at media days. Like, you show me an easy SEC schedule.
That's right.
And I think he's right.
That's right. We'll have to end it on that. Hey, Chris Blair, voice of the LSU Tigers. We want to thank our guests in the first couple of segments. Trevor Groves, he covers the Clemson Tigers. 2 great Tiger reporters here. We want to thank everybody. We'll be back next week with another edition of AP As We See It.